Hello, welcome in, guys. I'm at the Boulevard Brewery in Kansas City, Missouri. Fixing to do a tour, and I'm going to take y'all with me.
Thought I had some more people, but one big tour. My name's Mitch. I'm one up here, a tour guide. This is my partner, Colton, right now, and so when we get there, walk up to the bar, grab a beer, find a shirt, in that order. I get a drink with you guys. This is my retirement gig, so I'm going to drink. Make sure you behave, and then I'm going to leave and go pour beers at the next stop. Stay with Kristen, all right? Along the way, if you want to take photographs, you can take photographs. But we're walking to the building with the glass blocks, and then we're going dogleg to the right, go to Brew House 1 where it all started. Doors lock on us. So to stay together, hold the door open for us. I gave you guys all the pale ale badges what we're using. So we shouldn't get lost. We're a small group. And no smoking, no vaping on this 1 hour tour. If you smoke or vape, our campus spot to do that's right next to the dumpster. Any questions so far? Does anybody need an elevator? Well, there's stairs. All right. So when I do a brief, I use a movie reference because I'm a movie buff. I'm going to try it. Okay. Not been related. Who are my young Frankenstein movie fans? Yes. Yes. You guys are good? Walk this way. No. This way. Sorry. And don't make me do Aerosmith. That's what my backup tools is. Sorry.
Walk this way.
They're all walking. They all I'm watching traffic. You guys are just picking up the sidewalk right there. There's your spot. Yeah, you can go up there and then go right in front of the building. Okay, that's it. Alrighty. I was blocking traffic. I've done over 800 tours. No one's been hit yet. I want to keep it that way. Check out the coaster. Right there. Woo! I know, they're pretty. Waste not, big letters. And what that means is we are a zero landfill facility. We recycle everything possible. We recycle our glass, our aluminum. We choose to eat with us upstairs. We can't get food served in the cardboard containers. Cardboard containers, leftover food, the napkins, even utensils are all compostable. Things that we cannot recycle that is like plastic bags. I don't know why. Our contractor doesn't take it, but our contractor will take the plastic bags and burn it for energy so it doesn't end up in the landfill. As we walk around this corner, check out our trees. Woo! We planted over. We planted over 300 trees on one campus to help offset carbon emissions. We have solar panels on the rooftops. We have green spaces on the rooftops. We are not going on the rooftops. Just take the word for it. But if you have an electric vehicle over here, there's a charging station for electric vehicles. You can come over here, plug in, walk over to the beer hall, have a couple beers, drink responsibly. Kristen's going to brief at Brew House 1. I'm going to brief at Brew House 2. Brew House 1 is where it all started. There's an old memory for certain. Now let me interrupt. Don't step in the photo. I put that in my script because people weren't paying attention. This was a laundry facility, and when they couldn't wash the laundry, they just burned it, so it has nothing to do with brewing beer. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Okay. Kristen, I believe in audience participation, so if she asks questions or I ask questions, feel free to chime in. You might win something, like a beverage. All right, walk with me. You can hang out with us. Grab a beer, find a chair that work. Say hi to Kristen.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Wow, there's that tank 7.
Yep, they're all the same. Are we missing people, Mitch?
4. They had one person that was having car issues, so they moved to the 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I was hoping Amy would call, but she was,
She's busy.
yeah, I was going to call, but I think there's
Thank you.
somebody
It's
on
okay.
hold on the phone, so.
Don't worry.
I didn't. Here, you had it. You had it all here. Folks, go ahead and grab a chair.
All right, my friends. Well, welcome to Group House 1. My name is Kristen. Cheers. I'm drinking Sprite today. I have a gluten sensitivity, I found out after I started working here. So, I don't drink very much beer these days. But I still like it. So, anybody know what beer you're drinking?
Tank 7?
Tank 7? No, but that's a solid guess. Anybody else?
Pale ale?
Hey, there he
Did
is.
you cheat and look at your badge? I was trying to help you guys out.
He wins another pale ale. So let that be your lesson. This is audience participation based, okay? You see there's 2 more beverages up here. This is pale ale. This is the first beer we ever made and sold here at Boulevard. And so it's the first beer that we pour on tours. This beer is an English style bitter, which is a little bit different than some of the other pale ales that are out on the market. It's a little bit darker, a little bit more hoppy. When this beer first came out, people thought it was dark and hoppy compared to what was available at the time, which was pretty much just that lovely yellow colored beer we know as the American style lager. So you can understand why they would have thought this was a dark and hoppy beer. But unfortunately for us, we didn't invent beer, so we're going to talk a little bit about beer history before we talk too much about Boulevard's history. Anybody have any guesses how far back beer history goes?
BC?
BC. That's a solid guess.
1890?
1890. Going the wrong direction. I'm going to give it to BC.
Thank you.
There you go. The answer is beer history goes back anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 years, which that 4,000 year gap in that number is a historian's nice way of telling you we have no idea. We estimate it's anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 years because that's where we start to find some archaeological records. And those are clay tablets coming to us from the ancient Sumerians. And the first things that they carved into their clay tablets, not information about religion or politics, but they were beer recipes. They were odes to their brewing goddess, and her name was Ninkasi. And that might sound like really flowery and poetic when you hear the word ode, but it really was just like a recipe for beer. It was like a bushel of water, or a bushel of grain, a bucket of water, and stir it with the magic stick and put it in the sun. Bless this beer, Ninkasi. But why do we think beer is so important to us for several thousand years that we're writing about it? Any guesses?
Food?
Food? Yep, what's your guess?
More sanitary than water?
Absolutely. There you go. You get another beer. Absolutely. It's because beer is the safest thing for us to consume for several thousand years because beer goes through a boil and a fermentation, which is going to get rid of most of the nasty things that are living in the water And we don't understand germ theory for a long time, but we know we're much less likely to get sick and die from drinking beer than from drinking water. So it is considered to be a medicinal beverage for several thousand years. The Egyptians are making and drinking beer, and if we fast forward to medieval times, the average family of 5 is drinking anywhere from 9 to 12 gallons of beer a week.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. That's an accurate response. That's a lot of beer. That's almost a whole keg of beer. And they can't just run down to ye old liquor store and pick up a keg every week. So who do you think is making all of the beer if it's a household chore taking place in the kitchen for the good of the family?
Mom?
Absolutely. I don't have any more free beers.
That was him.
But it is mom, yeah. Mom is cooking, cleaning, taking care of the household, taking care of the kids, and brewing all the beer for the family. And that's a lot of things on mom's plate. And ultimately, mom is like, you know what? All of my friends are doing the same thing. Maybe if we get together in a group, we can brew bigger batches and it'll save us all some time. So they go to whoever has the biggest kitchen set up at their house and they brew big batches of beer. These women become known as brewsters or alewives, and they get really good at brewing beer, so much so that they begin to have an excess of beer left over at the end of the week that they can take to market and sell to make some money for their families. And this is one of the first time that we see women bringing in income into the home, and it's by leading the beer industry, which I think is pretty cool, right? Cheers, ladies. Now, these women have to come up with some sort of marketing plan because they can't just put out a sign that says beer sold here. We are still largely illiterate as a human species at this point in history. So their marketing plan includes a uniform, and that uniform includes a tall, pointy hat with a big, wide brim. So they will physically stand out above the crowd at the market, and people will come and ask them what they're selling. Once they develop a following of people who want to drink their beer, they can sell their beer from home. But now they have to mark their houses as a place where you can purchase beer, and they decide to do that using a symbol of cleanliness and grains displayed above their doorway. A broomstick over the door is going to mark her house as a place where you can get a beer. When you enter this woman's house to grab beer, you're going to notice she's got a few pet cats because we have a lot of grains to make beer, and grains attract rodents, and we don't want rodents in our house, especially not in this point in history with the bubonic plague out there sticking its toe and everything. So we've got our furry exterminators taking care of the mouse problem for us. Nature's furry exterminator. And if she happens to brew beer when you're in her home, it's not going to be in big shiny stainless steel containers like what we've got back here, because those don't exist yet. She's usually using the same thing that she makes soup or stew for her family. A big bubbly black cauldron is what this woman is going to be brewing her beer in. Anybody have any guesses? What does she sound like to you?
A witch.
She does sound like a witch, but she's not a witch. She's a mom. I just told you. Sometimes they're interchangeable, though. I don't know. But how does essentially medieval cool mom go from being a cool mom to being a witch? There's a few ways that this happens. Number one, religious forces that don't like that these women are being independent, making their own money, and bringing in income into the home, and cutting into the profits of monks who also make alcohol, and tavern owners who don't like that these women are cutting into their bottom line. These two groups, they team up and they start rumor campaigns. These women are not moms making beer for their friends and family, but they are covens of witches gathering under cover of darkness to brew black magic. They might turn you into a newt if you drink their beer. You might get warts, or you might even get the plague and die from drinking their beer. As you might imagine, this largely exiles women from the marketplace. But it doesn't stop women from brewing beer. In fact, women continue to brew beer for their families all the way up until the Industrial Revolution. It simply becomes cheaper to purchase beer commercially than to continue to make beer at home. Now this is going to fast forward us a bit through history to the late 1800s here in the United States. In 1873, we have over 4,000 operational breweries in the U.S., with about 20% of the population that we have today. To give you some perspective, today we have about 9,000 operational breweries, and to have the same amount of beer per capita, we would need probably about 20,000 operational breweries. So, needless to say, it was a wet and wild time in U.S. history. There was a lot of alcohol out there, and there was no rules around alcohol. There was no legal drinking age. There was no OSHA to tell you couldn't knock back 6 beers and then go operate the heaviest machinery you could find. And as you might imagine, this leads to us having a little too much fun. So 1920 rolls around and the government says, no more fun for you guys, prohibition. Can we get a boo for prohibition?
Boo.
Boo.
I want to pour more beer on that note. So, I'll see you guys in a few.
Thank you,
You're
Mitch.
welcome.
All right, so for 13 years, no one in the United States drinks a drop of alcohol.
They're supposed to.
Legally is the key word there. Especially not here in Kansas City, where we become known as the wettest city in the United States. Yeah, go us, right? In fact, Kansas City comes out of Prohibition with 0 alcohol-related arrests. So obviously there was no corruption happening here. I said very sarcastically. But the big takeaway about Prohibition is that it really puts a hurt on the beer industry. We go from over 4,000 operational breweries pre-Prohibition to only about 400 that can reopen their doors when Prohibition is over. And over the next 45 to 50 years with consolidation and bankruptcy and changes in liquor laws, we go from 400 to about 44 in the whole United States. But that's a pretty crazy number if you think about it, especially considering the fact that Kansas City, as a Kansas City area, has about 50 operational breweries today. So we have more than the whole United States had in the mid-70s. Now those 44 breweries, they're doing their best to keep up with the demand for beer, but the problem is we've lost all of our variety of beer. We've all started making that lovely yellow beer that I referenced earlier, the American style lager, because it's easy to make and it doesn't cost very much money and we can get it out pretty quick. And when there's only 44 breweries in the whole U.S., you want something that's going to turn a profit as quickly as possible, right? And so this is where the founder of Boulevard comes into play. His name is John McDonald. He's a good Kansas boy. He grows up in Osborne, Kansas. He goes to KU, and he gets his degree in fine arts. Anybody else a fine arts major in here? It's usually just me and my fellow tour guides. Those of us that graduate with degrees in theater and art and music, and then we were like, well, I guess I'll go be a tour guide. So John turned to an old love of his, which was woodworking, and he opened a custom cabinetry shop right here in this building, and he waited for his girlfriend Ann to graduate from college. And Ann graduated from KU with her degree in art history. So obviously this is a power couple, okay? After graduation, these two decide to take a Euro trip to go see all the museums because they're little art nerds, and that was what they wanted to do. And they get to Paris, and John decides he's seen enough museums, he needs a little break, and he goes looking for beer. He finds his way to a Belgian beer hall called Le Goose, or the Goose, bellies up to the bar and orders himself a Budweiser because he doesn't know any better. Bartender tells him no and hands him a beer menu. Now in today's day and age, it's easy for us to not be impressed by a beer menu because literally everyone has beer menus now, including Chuck E. Cheese. But John has never really seen a beer menu before because those weren't really a thing in 80s United States times, okay? So he sees all these beers he's never heard of and all these alcohol volumes in the double digits, and he decides he's going to do his very best to drink his way through this menu. Legend has it he completed that challenge. I have not confirmed that with John himself. But what does happen is he develops a love for beer, for all these different styles of beer that he's never had before. And when he comes back to the United States, he quickly realizes he's not going to be able to get anything like that here. No one's making anything like that. No one's importing anything like that. And so he decides to become a home brewer so he can start getting some of these other styles of beer here in the U.S. Now, anybody in here homebrew or know somebody who does? Nice. Homebrewers make the best kind of beer there is. It's the free kind. Because legally homebrewers are not allowed to sell their beer. So John is making beer and giving it away out of this building on Sundays. As you might imagine, develops quite a following of people who really like free beer, but also end up really liking all these different styles of beer that they're getting to try because John's making stuff that they've never had before. And he's getting a lot of really positive feedback from people, and he's having a really fun time. And he decides he wants to open a brewery here in Kansas City. So he gets a degree in brewing science from the Siebel Institute in Chicago, and he comes back to Kansas City with a little 6-page business plan and a 6-pack of homebrew. And he goes to all the banks in town, and what do you think they said? Pretty much. They were like, bro, we're 4 hours away from the largest brewery in the United States, the Dog and Pony Show in St. Louis. We're 8 hours away from those mountains that change color for some reason in Colorado. And we have our friends up north making beer. We don't need a brewery in Kansas City. We're not going to give you $500,000. Leave a six-pack, though. See you later. Now, John is not discouraged by this. He goes to his next best bank he can think of, the bank of mom and dad. And he tells them his plans. And they say, we'll give you your inheritance early. But that's not all the money he needs. So he goes back to everybody that's been drinking beer for free for so long. And he's like, guys, it's time to settle your tabs. Some of them invest, some of them don't. He still needs a little bit more money. And he goes to his now wife, Ann. And he's like, babe, I have a great idea. Let's sell our house that we just purchased here on the west side of Kansas City. And use that money to open a brewery. I know it's your dream house and all, but don't worry. I'm going to build us a 400 square foot, 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment above our brand new brewery. Doesn't that sound like fun? Now, John swears that Ann immediately agreed to that plan. And I'm going to say, it probably took a little convincing. Especially if it was her dream house, right? So, ultimately, she agrees to the plan, and I kind of think that makes her the real hero of this story. She gave up her dream house for the brewery, and that's pretty big support in my book. So we buy the building that we're sitting in right now and the brew house that you see behind the glass at this point in history. And that bad boy back there takes John and his friends about 18 months to get it put back together and operational. It is a 1930s Bavarian brew house. It was destroyed during the war in the they refurbished it in the 1950s, and then John acquired it, and it came to us in pieces. Once they get it put back together, they brew their first batch of beer, which was pale ale. Don't worry, yours was fresh. And they throw the first keg of pale ale in the back of John's pickup truck, and he goes driving down Southwest Boulevard looking for someone to give him a chance, which is easier said than done. Not a lot of places want to give up a tap handle to some guy they've never heard of with a beer style they've never had before. But eventually, John finds his way to Ponak's Mexican Kitchen. Anybody in here been to Ponak's before? Not exactly what you would call a craft beer destination. They are more well known for their strong and stealthy margaritas, which are essentially a pitcher of tequila that someone threw a lime at from across the room. So if you like really strong tequila margaritas and tacos, you should go check out Ponak's. They said yes to John. They knew he was in the neighborhood. They wanted to support him because they knew he was local. And so they said yes, and he tapped the first keg of pale ale November 17th, 1989. Now, he figures they're going to have that keg for a while before they need more. So he comes back to the brewery, celebrates that first sale with Ann, and then gets back to work. 3 hours later, he gets a phone call from Ponak's. Hey, we cashed that keg, and we want 5 more. And that's how Boulevard Brewing is born. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, how does a place like Ponak's go through a whole keg of pale ale in 3 hours? That's wild. It is pretty wild. What happened is Ann, after John went back to work, she spread the word. Friends, family, anybody who drank beer for free. Hey guys, the first keg is at Ponak's. Go get some, right? And people showed up in force to make sure that keg floated as fast as possible. And we are so thankful for that all these years later. Who knows how long it would have taken Boulevard to really take off if it had taken them a long time to empty that keg. But what happened is then other restaurants and bars in the area took notice, and they sent their orders in for kegs of pale ale, and the brewery took off. To this day, we still put a lot of effort into maintaining relationships with local restaurants and bars because they were the ones who first supported us, and we think that's super important. So, a little bit more history about that brew house back there. You might notice on the side of the big main vessel, that dimpled stainless steel tank, that it says 35 BBL. That does not stand for Brazilian butt lifts. It stands for Brewers Barrels. 35 Brewers Barrels makes about 70 kegs worth of beer at a time. And that's a pretty big system for someone who's first getting started in brewing. When John first got started, he had no one to compare himself against. He thought this thing was going to brew every drop of Boulevard beer forever and ever. Amen. Okay? But what ends up happening is we sell a lot more than John thought. We'll talk about the rest of the story at the next stop. But do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns before we move on?
What percentage is this?
5.9.
I can feel it.
We, here at Boulevard, I think we do actually a pretty good job of making beers that can be pretty boozy and not taste super boozy. You might get yourself in trouble with things like Take 7, a lovely American style saison that's a pretty easy drinker. A lot of people, when they first drink Take 7, they have a Take 7 story after that because they learn that 8.5% beer doesn't taste like that 8.5%. It goes down pretty easy. When you're on your second one, you're like, wait a second. All right, guys, if you don't have any other questions for me, I have a riddle for you. Your beer can go with you, but your glassware cannot. Which just means drink up and bring me your glasses. I'm going to load the dishwasher and we'll be off to our next stop.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Pardon me. We're going to head out this door on the side over here. Go meet up with Mitch. I'm pretty sure he poured you more beer.
Not a yeah. Some pipe. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, friends, we're headed up to the second floor. Mitch is up there with more beer for you. If you prefer an elevator, it's just past the stairs on the right. Welcome to the brewery, everyone.
Thank you.
Say hi to Logan.
Go to the elevator if you want to lift. Second floor. Nice have options. Oh, don't take a picture of me. Give it. I'm not ready.
I'm not ready.
Goodness. Give me another one. How much that Boulevard?
Right here, I'll try not to spit on you when I get inside and talk about here. Oh, see, now I'm going to yawn. You're probably yawning because I was trying to hide my yawn. Sometimes it just happens. I eat stuff. They eat stuff. All right, everybody ready? Cheers. Welcome to Brew House 2. All right, look everybody in the eyes. Look at the bad luck to go. That's my daughter's favorite thing, but I use it. All right, I'm going to talk about this beer, this building, brewing ingredients, a little bit about Brew House 1, a little bit about Beer Hall, if I have time, and we'll just get going. I said cheers, welcome to Brew House 2, because you guys were at Brew House 1. That's how numbers work. That's the reason why we call this Brew House 2. All right. This beer, well, let me talk about this building real quick. This building, we opened it up out of necessity in 2006. Brew House 1. It's a 35 brewers barrel system. It will max out at 60,000 brewers barrels a year. We had to add extra vessels to keep up the demand, and off that 60,000 system, we were knocking out over 100,000 brewers barrels a year off that 60,000 system. We were told that brewers were working 24/7, 365, 16 hours a day to keep up demand. They weren't getting to see the family a whole lot. So John says we need to expand. This time, he took his financial report and he went back to the bank and he says, I need a loan to expand. And the banks, they're all excited because they know Boulevard by now. And they said, all right, we'll give you a loan. How much do you need? He goes, $25 million. $25 million so towards John. John builds this building, Brew House 2, to include a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind, at the time, Brew House 2 kitchen. This is a linear system, and what's fascinating about this is in the same amount of time, over there you can do 35 brewers barrels. Here, same amount of time, you can do 600 brewers barrels, because we have 4 vessels, and these are 150 brewers barrels each, versus 35. So life got to be a whole lot better, because everything transferred from Brew House 1 to Brew House 2 now. This system, how we can do 600 a day is at the far end we do our milling, our water or grain, we mix it together, it goes to the mash tun, the lauter tun, the brew kettle. Some people call it a wort kettle, because brewers make wort. When you add yeast to the wort, that's what makes the beer. And then behind me is the whirlpool where it is spun and piped to the fermentation tanks. This is the hot side of brewing. So in this one day of hard brewing, if we wanted to make 4 different batches, 4 different products, we can, or we can keep the same product of the batch, and that's way above my pay grade to tell you how they decide on what batch of beer or what types of beer to brew. Now, this right here, if I was to, now I told you I like to talk movie references, all right? I'm asking for a number. I'm looking for a number. You guys ready?
Austin Powers.
1
1
million.
Yeah, 1 million brewers barrels. That's what we can make 1 year if we push our brewers like we did over there. And right now we're only knocking out roughly 200,000 brewers barrels, give or take 1/5 of our capacity. So at that note, drink or Boulevard, we can meet your demand. It's not a problem. All right. Let's talk about this beer. What do you think we're drinking?
Boulevard Wheat?
Who said Boulevard Wheat? Did you earn a beer last time?
No.
Well, that's a wrong answer. But I'm going to give it to you because, not to put you on the spot, I believe in audience participation. I don't believe in the right answer. This whole tour thing, to me, is a learning experience. It's educational. So therefore, you're smarter when you drink more beer, the smarter you get. And now, what kind of beer is this?
Boulevard Wheat.
No, it's a space camper.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. I know, remedial, but just keep drinking. This right here is Space Camper Coffee. Our number, according to our script, our number 3 selling beer, but maybe by the end of the year when they recalculate it, it could be number 1. All right, every beer that you've ever had has 4 main core ingredients for it to be beer. Water, a cereal grain. They use malted barley. I have a couple samples here. Hops and yeast. Those are the 4 ingredients. And on this hot side brewing, we're going to do the water and these 3, the grain and the yeast, the grain and the hops. But Christian's going to talk about yeast. That's the 4th ingredient. And that's on the cold side brewing. All right. Water was the #1 ingredient. 95% of this beer is water. We get our water straight from the Missouri River. That's the reason why you have this haziness in there. Yeah, thanks for the pity laugh. We get our water from the Missouri River by way of Kansas City Water Municipality. We're in the top 10 in the nation. Have been for years. Great quality water. They put chemicals in there to make it healthy for us. As a brewery, we need to strip out those chemicals. If you don't, you may have a medicinal flavored beer. Life's too short for that. Second ingredient is the cereal grain. This is malted barley. It's got 2 different types: pale malt, base malt, chocolate malt, specialty malt. The more you roast something, the more you roast out the starches. Starches are important because they convert to sugars. Sugars convert to alcohol. Notice how they're not quite full. That's because people don't follow instructions and they might nibble on them when we say you shouldn't, because people stick their fingers in here. And then in my case, on my tour, they were spilled on the floor and I picked them up off the floor and put them back in. Just saying, it won't kill you, but don't eat them. All right. These are a learning experience. You can touch them, smell them, and pass them on. We get our flavor, our sweetness, and our alcohol from the malted barley. Who are my hopheads, my IPE lovers? Anybody? Yes, all right. IPE lovers, I call them hopheads because I became one working here. I'm really a dark beer guy, but when I pass these hops around, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, wow, it looks like rabbit food. I used to raise rabbits. They don't grow this way in pellet form. They grow on a plant called a vine. Vines are stalks. They grow 15 to 20 feet in the air. And on these stalks are buds. Usually when I say that term nowadays, buds, people's ears perk up. Yeah, well, it's because they're cousins to that other plant that just became legalized last year. And so if you take a whiff of this, you're going to smell some very dank notes. And if you don't want to smell them, just do the high school chemistry quaff. Wow. Don't eat these, it'll wreck your palate. They won't kill you, but it'll wreck your palate. You won't taste anything for a couple of days other than the pellets. Hops grow in 3 main areas in the world. They'll grow anywhere like that other plant. But the 3 main areas: Pacific Northwest, Valley, Washington, Oregon. 40% of the world's hops for brewing come from that region. The second, thank you very much. The second area is Europe, Germany, Czech Republic, and UK. And the third area I refer to as the down under, Australia and New Zealand. And hops are like grapes, that they'll take on different notes, tones, and flavors from the climate and the ingredients in the soil in which they're grown in. So that's the reason why you can have a lot of different tasting beers, because different hops produce different flavors. All right. When Brewhouse 2 opened up in 2006, everything from Brewhouse 1 transferred to this building, and everything was being brewed on Brewhouse 2. John wanted to start a passion project called, well, he named it the Smokestack Series. Who's heard of Smokestack Series beers? Tank 7, Bourbon Barrel Quad, Whiskey Barrel Stout, Dark Truth 6 Glass, Rye, and a whole bunch of others. But the ones I just mentioned, 8.5% alcohol by volume and above. John thought only a few select people would appreciate those heavy boozy beers like Europe, and he was mistaken. He found out anything that says made in Kansas City with a high alcohol content, yeah, it's a hit. Couldn't keep up with the demand on that small system, so all the smokestack beers are now brewed on Brewhouse 2. Before John retired, he told his brewers, I am giving you Brewhouse 1 as your playground. Create beers you think the public would enjoy, and if it's a hit, great. If not, keep trying. This beer, Space Camper, Cosmic IPA, was born in Brewhouse 1, and to get it out to the public, we take beers that are born or created over Brewhouse 1, called our test kitchen, and we take it over to the second floor of the beer hall. Who's been on the second floor of the beer hall? All right, there are 2 bars up there. A big bar we call it the big bar because it's big. The small bar we call the small bar because it's small. But the small bar is our test experimental bar. And that's where the space camper was launched under a different name, Test Eldorado Hops IPA. It was great because it wasn't a West Coast or East Coast where the hop, just bites you. I'll make up a name that doesn't exist. Mid-Coast IPA, Midwestern. But that's not the style, that's just the reference that we use. And it's easy and approachable, kind of like most of us here in the Midwest. So that's how that came about. Any questions? No? Am I forgetting anything, Kristen?
I can't think of anything.
I'm usually on a roll, so go ahead.
How do you treat your water before you use it?
Okay, so we don't treat our water, but we filter the heck out of it. Kansas City Water Municipality is the ones that treat it.
Right.
So it's not reverse osmosis, if that's where you're leaning.
Okay.
Okay, we don't do that. So Kansas City Water Municipality, we get it here and then we just filter the heck out.
UV filtration and carbon filtration. If you wanted more detail.
Okay.
All right. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Sort of. All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, I got the ingredients back. I talked about brewing. I talked about this building and brew house one and the beer hall kitchen. I think we are done. So if you don't mind, what I'd like is if you can put your beers on the counter. I tell you what, let me grab an empty glass. Yellow. I'll show you right where to put it.
I mean, it's beer.
You what?
It's beer.
There's a beer? Is that an extra that I poured? Oh my goodness. All right, here's the last question. Who can drink this beer really fast? Raise your
Me.
hand. You. All right. We'll follow Christian upstairs. I'm going to do the dishes, wipe the tables down, and I'll be up to join you.
Alright guys, we're headed up to the third floor. If you prefer the elevator, feel free to use that. We're just gonna go up to 3.
Now I know why they got elevators.
I'll be up to join you in a minute.
We heading out that way?
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Feel free to get some photos if you want to what we affectionately call Mount St. Selfie or Selfie Point. An excellent spot for photos of the smokestack and the fermentation tanks and the city skyline. You've got a few minutes. Feel free to get some pictures and then we'll talk a little bit about fermentation.
All those sacks trying to get home.
Yep. Hey, you guys, man, thanks for coming in today. I hope you enjoyed the little brewery tour. We will be live tonight, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. So tell your friends, you guys come up. Remember, peace, love, and weed, guys. I'll see y'all tonight.